We have to get the ball inbound. They get it inbound. Belangel pump fakes, puts it up.
Before we see what happens next, we need to see what happened before. The Gilas vs Korea rivalry has always been one-sided, and it seems like it always will be. Like, how do you overcome a 3-16 record against a team? Especially in this scenario where you only meet once or at most twice every 3 years. Korea has been dominating the flag with 3 stars in the sun for a long time now, which is why some call it the Korean curse. Before the initial breaking of the curse in 2013, our own Gilas Pilipinas haven't won a single game against soccer in 30 years, a time where the convoluted but sometimes great PBA wasn't even around yet. Also, notice how I said initial? It's because after the 2013 win, the Philippines went on a 5-game losing streak against them. Sheesh. Now, with all that being said, why was this a big deal for Filipinos? And why is the media pushing the fact that there is an actual rivalry in here? Because there is an actual rivalry in here. A 3-16 record does not speak for itself. Out of those 16 losses, 10 of those were a below 8-point deficit, and almost all but 3 weren't even double-digit wins. So yeah, although Gilas has been consistently losing to them, if you actually look at the numbers, they were always on the verge of defeating them. Now, why was this win a big deal for Filipinos? It was only a qualifying round.
Stop! No! Just stop.
That 2002 shot brought nightmares for every Filipino, and even my dad, who was a big national team fan at that time. So seeing the tables finally turn in the same fashion as they did in 2002 was a very big deal for them. So yeah, after that, how did the Philippines finally overcome South Korea? Well, the one thing that South Korea always had that the Philippines didn't is uniformity and unity. The South Korea team was always a well-oiled machine on the basketball court. And for a team who always only have a mere 2 weeks of practice, William Marshall, I thought you were better than Chito Marvasa, that thing is tough to beat. And also, to the PBA Commissioner William Marshall, this team isn't Team USA. Give more practice time, okay? But yeah, one of the reasons PH won is because, just like Korea, they're now a well-oiled unit. And no, William Marshall didn't give more practice time. The solution was no PBA players. Yes, the team was made out of 13 college players and 2 professional players who weren't even playing in the PBA and is not even 25. Dumb? No. I think it's brilliant. Not only does the national team is now an actual team, their players for the 2023 World Cup are getting developed. Also, Coach Tab Baldwin is the only guy I trust handling this national team. I know that Tim Cone is the Phil Jackson or Red Auerbach of Philippine basketball, but I just find Tab more fitting because he is more willing to go out of the box. Honestly, the only thing I would change on our Gilas team is to add Tim Cone and Yang Yao at the coaching staff. Now, before you rage at the comment section, hear me out. If they actually add Tim Cone and Yang Yao, there will finally be someone to wake them up when they're down by 50 against Serbia.
The pick and roll. The first option is the roll. And you don't get Kenny Williams. Sino yung isa? Jimmy! Eh! Tao mo dapat!
We're at the active center. Jojo Lastimosa, Attorney Rardy Malibot, and Jason Webb are taking care of business. Oh, there's a chair on the court. Tim Cone throwing a chair. That monoblock on the court.
In all seriousness though, this direction Gilas Pilipinas is taking, for my opinion, is brilliant. And if this is any indication of things to come, maybe beating Korea will no longer be a once-in-a-lifetime event. And maybe, just maybe, we can finally see this country who bleeds basketball not only advancing in the World Cup, but also competing in the Olympics. And for now, let's just enjoy this moment and finally play this once again. Welcome to a moment of history. That's how the drama started, and it only made the second game between Philippines and Korea more interesting. The Korean coach said that RJ Belangel's game-winning shot was lucky, which was a fair point since it went on the backboard and went in. And Coach Tab Baldwin did not appreciate that statement because he knows that these kids fought hard just to keep this game close. And for the Korean coach to say that, it wasn't a very pleasant thing to hear, especially for Coach Tab. And just like what Michael Jordan does 100% of the time, Tab Baldwin took it personally. And the last time Tab took it personally didn't end well, when Lebanon trash talked the Philippines and said that they will just take it easy on the Philippines, and as a result, Philippines defeated Lebanon by 12, with Jason Castro scored 25 points, Andre Blatch and Terrence Romeo helping along the side, and of course, Tab Baldwin doing his mastery in the coaching end of the floor. The Philippines won that game. Not only did they win that game, they came back after a very disappointing first half of the first quarter. They came back and dominated Korea and they never let up, and they end up winning by 5 points or 4. I actually forgot. You will see it anyways. This just proves that the Gilas has now officially broken the Korean curse, because not only did they defeat Korea once, they defeated them twice in one single tournament, and that is very nice, I guess, since the Philippines haven't won twice against Korea ever in a single tournament. So yeah, and the fact that Korea had like 70% or 60% of their actual national team in there, while the Philippines had no one from their official World Cup roster, that only made it more impressive, since the Philippines had no pro players other than Kai Soto, who has not even played a single professional game yet since he backed away from his G League stint, and Jordan Hedden, I think. If not, it must be Isaac Go. The Philippines defeated Korea twice with their cadets, and that got me more excited for the things that will soon come. My takeaways for this one is that Dwight Ramos should be a surefire in the 2023 World Cup. He should be in the lineup. There's no way that he is not in there, because other than Jordan Clarkson and Bobby Ray Parks, who by the way is banned from the PBA and will probably never play for the Gilas Pilipinas again since SBP is the one holding that program. Other than those two, we have no shot creators. Other than Dwight Ramos, of course. So yeah, we need Dwight Ramos as that spark plug off the bench, or maybe even the second scoring option when he's starting. Kai Soto showed tons of promise in this one, although he is pretty raw. He averaged 9 points and almost 8 rebounds per game, which is very impressive for a guy who is 19 and is experiencing his first national team stint. Although the numbers might not speak for it, Kai Soto was actually pretty impressive in this one. Angelo Kwame, the Philippines' new naturalized player, was also pretty decent in this one. I didn't think he will actually show his outside shooting capabilities this early in his Gilas stint, but he did, and he was actually pretty decent at shooting from the 3-point range, and we need that since we don't have much stretch 5s or 4s even that has the size of an international player. The only guy I can think of is Kai Soto, I think, but he's not really that consistent from the outside range, so Angelo Kwame can definitely help. What else? Mike Nieto was actually pretty great in the second game, which was very surprising since I actually was disappointed that he was still selected in the second game since he almost didn't show up in the first one. So yeah, other than that, Coach Tab Baldwin, obviously a very great coach. Just like I said earlier, he's the only coach I trust in handling this national team. This showing was a pretty impressive one, and I hope to see more of this in the FIBA OQT. I hope Kai Soto has a great tournament in that one, because a great game against Nikola Jokic rather, is very crucial to his draft stock. It will definitely increase it by a lot. Although I am ready for the fact that the Philippines will probably lose by 50 to each of those 3 games, who cares, because we are only developing these guys anyways, just like I said earlier. So yeah, Gilas has very bright potential, and I hope we can capitalize on that potential, especially next year in the World Cup. So yeah, in my next video I will rate the Rurouni Kenshin franchise. That's about it.
See ya.
Oh yeah? But can you do that?